It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Travel and Cruise Industry News Podcast. Here, I thought I had everything fixed and still had some technical issues. Sorry that I'm a couple minutes late, starting from what I said I was going to start, which was just at the last minute. Anyway, so let me try to bring everybody up to date on what I'm doing and why. This obviously is a special broadcast, special time. And the real reason that I'm doing it is to make sure I got everything fixed. Those of you that watched the show yesterday know that I had camera issues, I had audio issues, I had issues with Wi-Fi, I had issues with Google, Facebook, a megaphone, which is how I upload the podcast to the networks. It was ridiculous. And it all stems from the fact that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And they're saying, "Oh, this is suspicious activity." Well, hell yeah, it's suspicious. I'm in Spain or France now. Actually, I'm in Villefranche, which is in France, which is the port for Nice. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, good morning and welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry Podcast. On this, the 12th day of April, brought to you by Will U.S., the owner of Scootaround, and by Chilliescruises. We have a few news stories this morning. Not a gangbuster show, but again, I'm going to have my feet on the ground as to whether I've got everything fixed so I can continue on, especially here for these next, 14 days that I'm still going to be over here on the wrong side of the pond. No offense, Mike. The stories this morning, the lead stories, Americans to keep traveling. Got some statistics to throw out at you on that one. Also today, the Sun Princess Cancellation, a cruise ship for the elderly. I'm almost in that category now. Excessive fumes from a cruise ship. Barrymore Christens World America. Flooding on the Sky Princess, and lots more live here at 11 o'clock. Folks. No, it's not. It's actually at 10. What is it now? It's at 10:10, not 11. If you think it's 11 o'clock, your clock's wrong. So special time, folks. Again, my apologies for that, but if I get the show done without any major disasters, I'll be happy. Today is National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day. Not sure I could find a grilled cheese sandwich on the ship. But so go fix one. Have one for me. This day in history, in 1949, President Roosevelt died in office, and Vice President Truman became president. If you're a podcast person, you can always access the podcast via my blog, which is accessadventure.net. Or wherever you get your podcast from, just search for Travel and Cruise Industry News, and up pops the fat guy. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time is the normal show. This is an abnormal show. It's at a different schedule. I do that quite often. Something big happens on the days that I'm not scheduled to broadcast, I'll do another show anyway. I have no idea if I'm going to do a show tomorrow, which is Sunday. We'll be in port again. I may get to do something for a change. Well, not for a change, but for tomorrow. So I don't have anything scheduled. Then I'll do a show on Monday as per schedule. So, here's what's going on. The port here is a tender port. That sometimes offers some problems. Sometimes it doesn't. So it's always one that I check on. And this was shown or talked about or listed or advertised as an accessible tender. So I think, oh, cool. I can at least go ashore and see if I can find transportation to get over to Nice. It's about 5 miles or something. I didn't have an excursion booked because I wasn't sure about the tender. So I go to get the tender tickets, and the guy says, well, how much does your chair weigh? I said, oh, I don't know why you'd ask that question, but it's 118 pounds. And he says, well, that's too heavy. We have a limit of 100 pounds. I said, what? Why's that? Well, we have two guys that pick up the chair and take it up to the level. And I said, wait a minute, this is a wheelchair accessible tender. He said, yes, it's an accessible tender, as long as you can walk up 3 or 4 steps. I said, dude, that's not an accessible tender. An accessible tender, wheelchair accessible tender, means I can ride on. It might be a sketchy ride, a ramp from the ship, and it's moving and it's shifting and stuff, but I can ride on. I can take the tender into port, and I can ride off. I don't get up and walk. He says, well, that's what we have. You know. Your chair has to be 100 pounds or less, and you have to be able to do 4 steps. So I get my special needs coordinator guy back and I say, look, guy, you got to label things properly. So here's the whole problem with this, folks. The average person. Now, I don't even know. I haven't looked in the chat room. Gretchen, I don't know if you're here or not. I'm going to use you as an example, darling. You know I love you and all that. Gretchen is a normal ambulatory person, okay? She doesn't have to know anything about accessibility, about wheelchair accessibility, unless she just wants to. But it's not personal to her. It's not anything she has to worry about. It doesn't mean squat to her. Other than, yeah, okay, she knows me, and she wants to see me do well and be comfortable and have fun and do the things like everybody else does. I get that part of it. But in the long run, she's has to deal with her life and herself, and that's fine. That's the way it's supposed to be. To her, an accessible tender doesn't mean anything. To me and people in my community, in the disabled community, the wording means everything. If you tell me it's a wheelchair accessible tender or an accessible tender, I expect to be able to stay in my chair. If I have to get out of the chair and walk 3 or 4 steps or whatever, or go up a couple stairs, which that would be very difficult for me anyway, because you guys know that I am not bound to this 100%, but it's about 95%. But if I had to, I could walk 2 or 3 steps, and I had to get up a couple steps. I have to use both hands to pull myself up the railing because I can't walk up steps like normal people anymore. To properly say that, it's an ambulatory accessible excursion. That doesn't mean anything to Gretchen, but it means the world to me. And it means the world to the disabled community. We know what that means to us. We know that perfectly describes the situation. The cruise lines don't get it. The cruise lines, most of them, And Norwegian does a pretty good job with accessibility issues. Now, they do a pretty good job because of people like me that have been hammering them on them for several years now that are starting to fix things. So that's getting a lot better. And I'll bet you this gets changed somewhere down the line. They'll quit calling this an accessible tender because we'll keep hammering them on it. Okay? They do a pretty good job. But again, they're Gretchen. They're not in a wheelchair. The only cruise line that I know that has the direct person that's in a chair and handling it is Royal Caribbean with Ron Pettit, my friend, who tells me if I'm on one of his ships and there's a problem, call him. I have Ron Pettit on speed dial. And I've called him on numerous things. He's called me on things too. We're working together on things. An ambulatory accessible tender would mean something to him. And if it was in that situation, that's what he would call it because he knows. The cruise lines, they don't know. They're the Gretchens. And I'm the crippled guy. And there's a world of difference. I'll be interested to see when Tom and Gary and Kenneth and Robin get back from their excursions today on how inaccessible this was or how accessible it was. I couldn't, they wouldn't even let me try. Well, that's okay. I mean, if it was in a situation where I get stuck with steps and getting out of the chair to go from the ship to the tender, I got to walk that? Yeah, no, I can't do it. So anyway, that's why I'm in here all day, and I've been busily working, trying to get everything. I pretty much had everything fixed last night. I wasn't still sure about my camera working. The only way to know for sure about that is to do a show. Voila, here I am. And I'll be back with some news after a quick break from one of our network sponsors, because this will be another podcast. It's going up in the network. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we're going to start today. If I can find where StreamYard went. Where did it go? I'm lost. So, honest folks, I hope I'm not off the air. That would be horrible. Oh, no, there it is. Phew. Goodness gracious. Let me check over. And, okay, just going to go Grace. Roger, yeah, okay. So I must be working fine. All right. Sorry about that delay. I thought I had lost everybody again. I didn't. My bad. Okay. So we're going to start off today with Americans traveling. I found some of the statistics in this were really great. Despite all the gloomy economic news, Americans say they intend to keep traveling. That's according to a flash survey of 1,000 U.S. adults conducted between April 3rd and April 5th. The survey found that more than 8 in 10 consumers intend to maintain their leisure travel plans for the months ahead. Specifically, the survey revealed that despite the executive orders and economic news, 83% of U.S. consumers still intend to travel over the next 12 months. That's down just 4% since mid-February. 74% of U.S. consumers feel that somewhat too extremely confident in their household's financial situation for the next 6 months. This likely contributes to the fact that 70% of U.S. consumers intend to travel over the coming 6 months. 80% of the survey participants said that they intend to alter their travel behavior due to America's economic woes. Of that figure, 33% said they will travel closer to home. Additionally, 29% said they will change from international to domestic destinations. 24% of those surveyed indicate that they will opt for a less expensive mode of transportation, and 22% say they will alter the length of stay for an upcoming vacation. But despite all the woes, they're still going to travel. The Cherry Blossom Festival in Washington, D.C. has just begun, and we don't want you to miss a minute. Book a mobility scooter or wheelchair rental for the festival and get 10% off your order. All you have to do is call Scoot-Around powered by Will, whether you want a wheelchair, a power wheelchair, or a scooter. DC Mobility Rentals are 10% off during the entire Cherry Blossom Festival. All you have to do is call Scoot-Around at 888-441-7575. Use SRN 11137 or code DELIVERY for the best rates for the Cherry Blossom Festival. Princess Cruises' newest and biggest ship, the Sun Princess, is shifting her deployment plans a bit, and her March 19th, 2026 departure has now been canceled. Impacted guests have been notified of the cancellation, but without any details as to why the voyage will no longer take place. The 6-night cruise was to have departed Barcelona on March 19th, following a brief maintenance dry dock in Spain. Port visits to Gibraltar, Marseille, and Genoa were on the itinerary before Sun Princess was to have arrived in Civitavecchia on March the 25th. Meyerwerf Shipyard in Papenburg, Germany, has unveiled a new prototype cruise ship, the Serenity. The German shipbuilder said the ship design is targeted to guests over 80 years old. The company said Serenity makes the special needs and requirements of this target group without being a nursing home. Rather, Serenity is intended for people who live independently in apartments and who only use services and benefits when needed, which also offer assisted living facilities. Short pathways on board and adapted corridor widths, which allow for social interaction and generally facilitate passenger flow and orientation on board, are additional features of the ship. The starting point for this ship concept is demographic change. In the year 2100, those over 80 in the United States will include as many people as are over 65 today. The Florida Gulf Coast and Keys cruise from American Cruise Line. Explore Marco Island, where the expansive mangrove forests of the Western Hemisphere serve as a backdrop for meetings with friendly resident dolphins. Experience the colorful and laid-back southernmost point in the U.S. of Key West. Wander through historic neighborhoods of Punta Gorda, admiring the beautifully preserved homes from the mid-19th and 20th centuries. Explore a journey in St. Petersburg, exploring renowned art museums and beautiful botanical gardens. All on the Florida Gulf Coast and Keys cruise from American Cruise Line. Just give me a call, 434-258-9264. Small ship cruising done perfectly. On April 10th, while docked in Lyttelton, New Zealand, the Celebrity Edge emitted a cloud of fumes that was alarming to locals. According to local news reports, the area's environmental authorities, Environment Canterbury, received many calls from the public about an alarming amount of exhaust coming from the docked ship. A spokesman for ECAN, shared that they were closely monitoring the situation and working closely with Maritime New Zealand, an organization that is in charge of preventing air pollution from vessels. The Lyttelton Port Company also directly contacted Celebrity Edge after concerns were raised by the locals. The LPC spokesperson confirmed that the ship has a closed-loop exhaust cleaning system which neutralizes smoke pollutants before they're emitted back into the open. Still, the LPC is choosing to monitor the air emissions around the port, focusing on particle matter, nitrogen oxides, and sulfur oxides. Once the monitoring process is complete, results will be shared with the community. There is no timeline on when the information will be released yet, but if the closed-loop exhaust system did its job, chances are the results will be no cause for alarm. MSC Cruises officially christened its newest flagship, MSC World America, last night at the brand new MSC Cruise Terminal AA, the largest cruise terminal in the world. The christening ceremony was headlined by Drew Barrymore, who assumed the role of godmother in keeping with maritime tradition. Barrymore activated the ceremonial mechanism that smashed a champagne bottle against the ship's bow, a symbol of good fortune for the vessel and its future sailings. The event was attended by Orlando Bloom, who co-starred with Barrymore in MSC's U.S.-focused TV campaign, Let's Holiday. Congratulations to MSC and the World America. A burst pipe aboard Sky Princess led to the dramatic scene Tuesday night when water from the upper deck flooded multiple public areas of the cruise ship, prompting emergency procedures and temporarily displacing passengers from central sections of the ship. The incident occurred around 10:45 p.m. as the ship sailed its 7-day round-trip voyage from Southampton to Spain and France. Water reportedly poured from a burst pipe connected to the Sky Pool down through several decks, flooding the popular Piazza atrium on decks 5 and 6. Passengers described the scene as chaotic, but quickly brought under control. We, of course, reported on this story right after it happened, but had no idea where the water came from.
Be on one of the first MSC ships to go to Alaska when we sail May 25th, 2026 on the MSC Poesia round trip from Seattle. 7 nights going to Ketchikan, Icy Strait Point, Juneau, and Tracy Arm Fjord, and a stop in Victoria, Canada on the way back to Seattle. Inside cabin start at $849 per person, balcony from $1289 per person. The MSC Poesia going to Alaska. Why not join us? I promise you we'll have a great time. Just call me 434-258-9264 and we'll cruise with Chillie to Alaska.
All right, that puts an end to the news portion of today's show. So let's go over and see if anybody's here and anybody's in the chat room. Well, let's check it out. Gretchen says, hi there. Hi, Gretchen. I'm sorry I used you as an example, but that was a good person to use. Mike's with us. Good morning, Mike. Just getting on the treadmill. Wish I was in France with the champagne in hand. Yeah, well, I wish I was in France too. And I'm on the boat out here in the water. I mean, yeah. Anyway, there's Roger. Oh, there's also Grace here from Max. Wow, somebody from Max came here. Good to have you, Grace. Roger from Jacksonville. Hi, Roger. Our sunny down Mississippi. Gorgeous day in Mississippi. It's been kind of scrungy here. It was real cloudy and foggy, real foggy this morning. Looked like it was going to rain, but I don't think it ever did, at least that I noticed. But Hot Air Tom, when he left to go on his excursions, I mean, he had a jacket to put on, he had an umbrella, he covered all the bases if he could, if it came up. But it hasn't. Sun was out for a while. I went out on the balcony for a while. I wanted to take shoot some film out on the balcony. When we first got into to port, well, out, where they take the tenders from out in the harbor, we had this beautiful scene not that far away of the port area, of the little town and stuff on the mountainside, and it was really cool. And I wanted to take some films of it. So I got Hot Air Tom to move his computer out of the way because I don't want to try to squeeze by his computer set up in his office in my chair and have something happen. So he was happy to do that. And they even left the door open because we had trouble with the door being so heavy. So I was out there a couple times, and the boat is rotated around. I'm sure it's the side of the ship that the tenders were going to, and that's what they kept it. So all I'm seeing is looking out at sea. I'm not able to see what I wanted to film. Now, yeah, I could have gone upstairs, and I might still yet to film from the upper decks. But it would have been so nice just to go out there and use the balcony and shoot a little film. And then the guy came to clean the room. He says, "Oh my, it's cold in here." I said, "No, it's not. The door's open." It felt good. So he shut the door, and then the guy came to see if he could repair the door to get it so it opened smoother. I haven't tried it because I couldn't budget. The Hot Air Tom had to do the opening and closing. So anyway, we'll see what happens. And maybe I'll run upstairs now and just do a couple clips, as it's a neat looking port area, Ville Francais. So, Sonny says, "That's a funny image. You and France on a treadmill with champagne in hand." I thought the same thing, Sonny. Yeah, that's a good look. There's Steve says, "Good morning to everybody." Hi, Steve. Bob's with us. Good morning, Bob. Glad all you guys made it on a Saturday, earlier than normal, with no notice, I didn't even advertise the show other than send a couple things out at the very last minute. So I appreciate y'all being here. At least I know now I'm good to go. So, all right, guys, that's going to end it for today. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising. Hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas. No idea if we'll do a show tomorrow or not. Definitely do one on Monday, though. We'll see you then, if not sooner. All right, everybody. See you next time. Thanks for being here. If I can get out again. There we go.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chilliescruises.